with the thinking that the new contract would start with the successful vendor on October 2nd, I believe.
And when you say checking to see if the proposed responses were responsive, you mean, did they meet all the requirements of the
Yes,
RFP?
the RFP, yes. So that's where we are there, but again, we didn't want to just assume that you wanted us to continue with that process. We thought it would be better if you guys would give us a guidance.
Common to set up a committee to look at RFPs, or was it always just purchasing agents department that handled that?
I think some RFPs are handled primarily by the purchasing agent, and some of the larger RFPs, especially with Public Works. Scott?
Yes, the Department of Public Works, we always use a selection panel to have multiple individuals review the proposals and then work as a group to formulate a recommendation.
And when an RFP is submitted, is that public information? You have a vendor that's submits a bid, is that a confidential bid?
Yeah, in this case, in the RFP case, correct me if I'm wrong.
Until such time that the recommendation for award is made, because it's only based on they have certain qualifications and requirements.
Well, one of the RFPs was splashed on a blog on Friday. The contents of that information was divulged at 1:30 on Friday. So that whole thing was compromised from the purchasing.
Well, wait a minute, I don't think the whole RFP was splashed. I think that there is certain amount of information.
The name of
the people that submitted, that's all that we have provided.
That's all that we've received.
At the time of the bid opening, anyone can come to the bid opening and watch the bids being opened and see the names of the proposers.
The contents were distributed. The contents.
There were details in that contract that shouldn't have been disclosed.
Who disclosed?
Can you tell us who disclosed it? To
I don't know.
to our knowledge, we have
I'm
not
gonna
provided
find
any
out
information except for the names of the people that submitted. There was no other mechanism, no other PDFs, to my knowledge, that has not occurred. That nor would we have attempted to. There's no reason to.
Am I allowed to serve on this review committee?
I would discourage any commissioner serving on the review committee because the commissioners will have another bite at the apple on who we are going to hire. And no one will be hired without the commissioner signing off. I think it should be done by independent, unbiased people
I'd like
that don't have
Yeah.
a fight in this, the dog in the fight, number one. And number two, we will, as county commissioners, be voting on whoever we choose or not. We may not choose any of the providers, but I think that we should stay arm's length from the evaluation and let others do that for us, and then we will make a decision based on their recommendation.
Commissioner Hodge, I appreciate that, but I feel like I would be doing carrying out my responsibility just to be watching the process, and I would appreciate being able to sit in and just observe. And I hope the board doesn't have a problem with that.
What do you have in terms of an idea of a committee you're looking at setting up?
Well, I just wanted, the group that was involved in the process up to today has been what I mentioned: Richard, myself, Stephanie, Craig, Bill, and Eric. Obviously we wanted confirmation or the board's approval going forward with this RFP.
Well, I'm concerned that the details of those RFPs are out there. Well, I think we need to understand that because that can violate the entire process.
I believe before you get too far, Commissioner, I have no reason to believe, we will confirm it, but I have no reason to believe that their RFPs were submitted to us electronically. They were brought to us physically by hand We did not otherwise scan or otherwise make available to anyone the results of anything associated with the RFP, with the exception of the names of the people that submitted. That's it. I cannot, I mean, we'll certainly confirm it, I have no issue with that, but I have no reason to think that we either, through acts of commission or omission, provided that information online. It came from somewhere else.
I personally informed Shirley and Katie not to release any information yesterday morning, other than the name of each entity.
Should that information have become available, it would not have been through our means. Because we neither asked for nor requested it to come electronically.
There's nothing to prevent the proposers from discussing their proposal to the public. If someone calls a proposer and says, tell me about your proposal, there's nothing to prevent that at all. And whether they called the SPCA or they called the other proposer and got details, there's nothing to prevent the release of that information publicly to anyone that asks.
That information was released at 1:30 on Friday. I don't know,
But
but
what is-
posted online at 1:30.
What information, I'd like to know what information was released, specifically what information was released.
Contents of that RFP.
Like what?
I'm not gonna go into that sitting here right now. You can read it for yourself and you can decide. Keep moving forward, but I wanna get an answer of who did what in the purchasing department to put that information out there. All right, so we're looking at possibly setting up a committee now to look at this. How does the board feel about that?
I think it's appropriate. My recommendation is that we have people who do not live in Cecil County, who have expertise in animal control, also on this committee. I recognize that we need county staff on this committee, and I have no objections to the people who have served on the interim animal control committee, because this group is the one that spearheaded that effort and is dealing with the results of the interim plan. But I think there needs to be people out there that have expertise in this area so that they can truly evaluate the responses, so that we know that they meet the animal control ordinance. And they need to be independent.
Commissioner Moore, how do you guarantee that someone who doesn't live in the county, that sits on this board is going to be independent? I don't think living in this county should disqualify you from being on this board.
Perhaps we should submit names of those people that we know and have the commissioners vote on them.
But just to keep the process moving, is everybody okay with the names that Mr. Wine named? Richard, Eric, Mr. Feely, and Stephanie Garrett?
I don't mind each of these
Right.
people being on the review board. Ultimately, I want them to come to us with their findings and discuss it with the Board of County Commissioners in how they came to their determination, but ultimately leaving it up to us.
But is everybody okay with the names that Mr. Wine?
I'm definitely okay with those names. I think that there is an opportunity for other people that have expertise in this business. No offense to Director Brooks and Matt Wine and the other members, but animal control is a business that requires a certain amount of experience and knowledge to get right. And I'm not sure that the board members that we have put in the interim plan together have that experience and knowledge. And I'll just put it right out there that I think Nikki Ratliff, the executive director of the Humane Society of County, who participated in the original animal care and control, should be part of that board. And I'm going to throw out another name, Raymond Reynolds, who is a CPA, who's on the Humane Society in Harper County, could sit on that board to provide some direction and analysis of the proposals. And I don't think that either one of them have any skin in the game or a dog in the race or the fight, I think that they want to do what's best for the animals and for animal care and control.
Well, if members of the board want to bring some dates forward and share them, that's set this up on Friday, first meeting.
Well, we were hoping, based on the schedule, we were slated to have a oral presentation to see the big responses on Friday.
Okay, so something about today, or
And we were hoping to have something in place today, so we can start on that today.
today? Let's keep the process moving. Okay.
Purchasing staff will be involved also filled into that.
Okay, ready for that, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. What we wanted to do was give you, after last week's discussion, give you an overview on some of the call volumes that we discussed last week and that you had concerns about. Basically, the call volumes are divided into three components: the emergency services side, the health department side, and administration. So those are the three places or the points of contact that we've given the general public. I'm going to discuss with you the emergency services side and certainly answer any questions that you may have. Basically, we're looking at call volumes that span from the 4th of September to the 17th of December. You'll note, probably of most note, is the amount of times that the law enforcement agencies or the Department of Natural Resources was involved and summoned to handle a complaint, remembering that the Department of Natural Resources does not handle domesticated or farm animals. They handle strictly the wild animals. So when we had those complaints, they were summoned. Personally, I responded with one of those where we had a deer struck on the side of the road. It was very evident in a highly traveled road, which I didn't believe was highly traveled at the time, with school children. There was a deer on the side of the road that was severely injured. We called DNR in to euthanize the animal and take it away. So if you look at those things, you'll see the types of descriptions, the authority, and then if there was an outside agency that was summoned, and they were our contractors, the contract animal control technicians, or the dog was taken or the animal was taken to the
Director Brooks, would you mind if I invited Jerry Hawkins up? When you provided this log, I called him and asking how can we improve on this or any gaps, and he had a few things he had to say. Is that okay, Jerry?
No problem, Bobby.
One of the things, Jerry, you had said in the log, you might want to add, is it your dog or a stray, just to clarify. Whereas the complainant's address, well, I think there's room that you can probably combine the name and address together and just do another log or another column for, is it your dog or a stray? Because there was one instance, has a dog, something about an infection, something eating its flesh. Didn't know if that was their dog or if it was a stray.
Why don't you continue with your...
No, well, that's basically where we are, was to answer the question that you may have on the type of responses, the agency that responded, or how it was handled.
The column says notify yes or no. What's that?
It's the outside agency. So if you look at, on my log here, so if you look at like the 6th of September, the notification yes, and then it was to me. The one below it was yes, and then it was Shoemaker, which is our contractor.
In other words, okay, the agency that was notified, if they referred it to someone else.
That's correct.
So it's a referral, not a note, okay, referral to someone else. Otherwise, you assume that they took care of it.
That's correct.
And I was concerned with the dog bite. on September 4th that advised Polly that they needed to report this to 911.
We're on two different sheets, I think. I don't know which one you're on.
I'm on the first set that you gave us. And Jerry, typically what would you do as an animal control officer if there was a dog bite?
If there was a dog bite like that, I would go out and investigate the report, speak with both parties. The party who had the animal that bit would have to provide proof of rabies, county license. If they had neither, citations would be issued not only for not having county license, not only for not having a current rabies shot, but for the animal running at large. On top of that, the animal would be declared potentially dangerous, which under Title 10 is allowed to be done, and there's quite an extensive chapter on that.
What is referred to 298? What is 298?
Where are you? I'm sorry.
September 9th. Bite referred to 298.
I don't know what the notation stands for. I'll have to look for it.
Well, I agree that this is an interim plan. We don't have the resources, we don't have the manpower. We're not doing half of what we're supposed to be doing. There's no doubt about it.
But what was canine care for? I thought if there was a dog bite, that the dog would have to be quarantined. Isn't that part of it? No?
I'm not sure about the interim plan, but under 209 and under state law, there's no provision in there that says that the animal must be taken to a facility and quarantined. It says that the animal must be quarantined.
There you go.
No, it can be quarantined on the owner's property.
There are various ways.
It has to be quarantined.
Right.
I didn't say that.
It could be quarantined anywhere.
And it goes further, that if it was a second dog bite, or if the dog was deemed to be hostile, that then the health officer could make a determination as to the euthanasia of the animal.
That's correct, and I have gone out and picked up animals for the health department in a case like that.
One of the things that I think we need to be real clear on here, in Jerry's official capacity, he does animal enforcement, right? This interim plan is animal control. All right, that's all. So there are two very distinct differences in his past day-to-day operations and what we've been doing for the past 18 days.
I understand that, and my concern is that we are addressing the emergency situations adequately.
Right.
And to do that, I'm gonna go to the person that enforced it before, just to make sure, because go to the experts.
Are there any other questions of Director Brooks on this?
Actually, we have not referred any animals to canine care at this point,
We have two there right now.
okay? And what were they sent there for?
One was a lost, all right, lab, all right, that was picked up that was potentially required care, all right, it did not. And the second was a hostile dog in a neighborhood that the sheriff's department determined needed to be removed.
Okay, and ultimately, they're gonna be held for 8 days?
That's currently the intent, right? And then we're going to attempt placement.
Okay.
I did, while Jerry's here, Jerry, could you tell me, as the animal control officer for the SPCA, did the ordinance include cats?
Well, I'm not the animal control officer for the SPCA anymore, so
I
let me
understand.
make that clear first. No, and I actually sat down here and made some notes so that if anybody has a book here, that they could make quick referral to it. Under 203, 209-3 mentions enforcement of basically rabies, citations, etc. And in there, it read that the dog and cat can basically receive a citation if they don't have a rabies shot. Under 209-6, which governs your running at large now, there is no mention of cats. Under 209-4, Section B, it mentions again about the rabies shots and that they must be over 4 months of age, and cats is into that. Under 209-14, Section B again, it mentions persons bringing dogs and cats into the county will provide proof of rabies vaccination. Animals not having the shot can be impounded and either deported or vaccinated by a Maryland, and I emphasize Maryland vet, at the owner's expense. So as far as cats running loose, no. To have something like that implemented, be very costly. I mean, I just, not to get off on a tangent here, and I promise I won't, but just on a, I was doing some research online, and these are facts from the National Pet Alliance, which is online, that anybody can see, that one female and her offspring can be responsible for over 3,200 kittens. Now, out of that offspring, they usually have between 1 and 2 males, and the rest are females. So now that female, or those 3 females, become victims of no care, no TNR, no fixing. So now that one there has the potential of increasing the population. So in order to do something like that, it's going to be very costly.
When you talk about that multiplier effect, isn't that a good reason to get those cats rounded up and gotten rid of?
I think unless you want HSU that's breathing down your back and you want all the other animal alliances breathing down your back, I wouldn't necessarily use the word get rid of. I would maybe suggest maybe like a TNR type of situation. But again, you still have to have the manpower, the equipment, and everything else to go out and conduct that type of work.
But doing nothing is a situation that's going to compound and get worse.
Well, doing nothing isn't that. It's a matter of getting out here and educating people. I mean, I've sat in meetings and listened to meetings the county has had, and I know there are people against government getting involved in animals. Okay, I wholeheartedly understand that. But not too long ago, I read, and it's probably been a few years ago, that there was a county out in Arizona that euthanized over 12,000 cats in 1 year. Now this is Arizona. I don't know what the population was. I really didn't get into it. But if you turn around and look at the cost to euthanize 12,000 cats versus bring Jerry, a commissioner, whomever, to go out there and say, look guys, we have a program in place. It's not expensive.
And just learning about this whole issue, the TNR program and the rescues that are active in the county have been implemented, have been working, and even with the Greystone horse rescue, you know, commendable. But these organizations have been working in the county alongside with our animal control. And that's what helps make it work.
And not only that too, but the cat entities have turned around and run out of room. They have run out of money, probably some of them, to do this here. There is a program that used to be funded by the Snyder Foundation. Please excuse me for my ignorance on that. I'm not up to date on what the Snyder Foundation, if they are currently funding or what their funding limit was. They used to fund for certain things, okay? And again, you know, they turned around and dumped money into helping people with horses. Now, what's the problem with turning around and a rescue coming here and saying, look guys, you want me to turn around and help you with cats, I'm willing to do it. But I need about 10 grand so I can pay for my medicines, my stitches, and everything else. You know, so now we're getting into an issue of, okay, government is getting into the animal business when really we need to be educated.
Well, we have a follow-up discussion on some of this stuff coming when Ruth works on some of those edits. So we'll pick that piece up there, if that's okay. Richard, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Jerry.
Very well. Okay,
presented treasurer's report this evening.
Sure.
We have 3 introduction items. The first is Scott.
One of the projects within the roads and bridges portion of the county CIP is construction of an additional salt barn up in the north central portion of the county. We've been searching for quite some time, trying to find a suitable site, and have identified one adjacent to Cherry Hill Middle School, and have been working with the Cecil County Public School System to gain their concurrence with that. They also have a need for salt for their various facilities, and so they would also benefit from having one in that area. And so what I will be introducing this evening is a deed of easement between the Cecil County Board of Education and the Board of County Commissioners, whereby the Cecil County Board of Education would grant to the Board of County Commissioners the right to construct a salt barn on a portion of the Cherry Hill Middle School site. That'll be introduced tonight with the intent that it would be voted on at your next meeting.
You have before you a resolution entitled Amendments to the Cecil County Pension Plan for Public Safety Employees. What you see for introduction this evening is similar to the codification updates that I'm sure you're intimately aware of. The plan document was originally established with the authority derived from the Board of County Commissioners. This information was provided to council for the Public Safety Pension Plan, Cheryl Booth of McGuire Woods, and all requisite changes were made to where the previously mentioned Board of County Commissioners to either county executive or county council as appropriate.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I think the last one is a resolution granting consent to transfer control of cable television franchise Atlantic Broadband, Delmar. There has been a stock purchase agreement between Atlantic Broadband and Contico Corporation, Contico Cable 2, which has purchased the stock of Atlantic Broadband, Delmar. They are a huge cable conglomerate out of Canada, and they have bought a lot of the Atlantic Broadband franchises. They're asking for consent to transfer this. They also, one of the specific things I read over this package, which I see thick, and one of the things they said is that there's no changes in service terms or service, and will comply with all aspects of our franchise agreement. And it's one of the things they consent to do in this agreement.
So Atlantic Broadband is still a franchisee.
That's correct.
That's for introduction this evening. Appointments, we'll have a closed session later, I believe, for Parks and Rec and Public Safety Pension Board. Director Webb is proposing to add Michael R. Lara as a new appointment. I believe she's spoken to the board about this. And if you have any questions, she'll be available for this evening. Eric?
You had a decision this evening for the rezoning hearing you had at your September 4th meeting for the proper 48 acres on Rosemont Lane. The request is to change it from Northern Agricultural Residential to Low Density Residential. Planning Commission heard the arguments at their August meeting. Staff forwarded a recommendation of disapproval as there being no demonstrated change or mistake. The Planning Commission recommended it approval based on mistake, so it will be in for your decision this evening.
Scott?
There are 3 DPW action items on your agenda for this evening, 2 of which were introduced at your previous meeting, and the third is a bid award. The first action item is a right-of-way deed by and between Richmond America Homes and the Board of County Commissioners to convey to the county 2 roads in the Susquehanna Riverview development. Again, that was introduced at your last meeting for a vote tonight. The second action item is a Board of County Commissioners resolution regarding a proposed reduction in the speed limit on a portion of Muddy Lane. Again, that was introduced at your previous meeting for a vote this evening. And the third action item is award of bid 13-11 for the purchase of 3 wood chippers for the roads division. Those will replace 3 old wood chippers which have reached the end of their useful life.
Couple budget amendments, I
Yes,
guess,
sir.
for this evening.
I have a question on the wood chippers. Are they brush bandits or are they veneers?
Vermeers. The title, I guess the brush bandits were the proposed model, but we almost always say we're willing to consider alternative makes and models if they are comparable. And in this particular case, the Vermeer model was not only judged to be comparable, but judged to be superior, specifically as it relates to some of the safety features.
And is it the low bid for the comparable models?
It is not. It's the second low. The Brush Bandit was the lower price, but again, in the judgment of the Roads Division personnel who served on the selection panel, they felt that the Vermeer model represented a superior value primarily as a result of having better safety features than did the model proposed by Security Equipment.
In the past, you've had the purchasing department has provided a little spreadsheet with all the prepared proposals listed.
Do you not have that? Okay, as soon as we're done here, I'll make copies of that and get that to you.
Ready for budget amendments?
Yes, sir. Give a few budget amendments for your review this evening. First item should be fresh. Last week, Judge Whalen casted several materialized at the work session to discuss the case manager position for the Child Support Initiative. This budget amendment reflects the cost sharing between the Donaldson Brown Center and the county at a level of $13,779 each. Next item is for the detention center. It's to establish initial budget for the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, the Burn Justice Assistance Award grant in the amount of $26,000 that the law enforcement folk will utilize to purchase a live scan machine. Next item establishes a budget of $400 for the live scan fees and expenses for both the revenues and the expenses associated with that. And the last item is a request from Cecil County Public Schools to approve their May and June activity for fiscal 2012 to record additional revenues received, largely federal revenues received for a variety of grants. That does not alter in any way the county's obligation to its allocation to schools. Thank you.
Okay, Craig, if I could ask a question on the case manager. This is our portion of the funding, or is social services reflected in this as well as their half?
This amendment reflects the cost sharing arrangement as was explained in the meeting, which is our half and the Donaldson Brown half, which is through social services.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that was
So
portion. And the live scan machine, where's that going?
that is going to detention center, is utilizing the Burn Justice Award grant to purchase that.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, we've drafted 1314 all-terrain slope mower.
Yes, I am before the board this morning seeking authorization to proceed with advertising, as President Mullen noted, draft bid 13-14, which is for purchase of a slope mower for Solid Waste Management Division of the Department of Public Works. I had received a request from one of the commissioners for that additional information regarding this item be provided, and Pete Beanick, Chief Solid Waste Management Division, sent to everyone a link to a website that has a video that would allow you to see, a slope mower in action. I looked at it, I thought it was pretty good. Hopefully that answered your questions. Purchase of this piece of equipment is included in the Solid Waste Management Division's FY13 operating budget.
So if everybody had a chance to look at the video or read through this, if you're okay with the draft bid. That was pretty, it's pretty good stuff. I think we have 5 nods. All right, thank you. Okay, we have discussion on the council auditor, and if you remember when we met to go over what was the codification a couple weeks ago, that was one of the items for discussion, and I think some additional information with regard to Hartford County and how their council auditor operated and the scope of work was. So just on for discussion, just for some follow-up, to learn a little bit more about this.
Thank you, President Mullen. I contacted Crystal Moore, who is the current in-house auditor for Hartford County. She's been in her position for 6 months, even though the charter had this in-house auditor in there. It was a position that could have been activated, I think, since the inception of their charter, which was, I think, in 1984. She went ahead and shared with me why they chose at this time to fill that position. There were, increasingly contentious relations between the council and executive. Last year, external auditor identified a potential risk related to sole source procurement on professional services. Process should have included more competition, and result would be cheaper bids and higher quality services. Additional risks could have been handing out contracts as political favors. Not enough oversight was identified. Create a more professional environment in having an in-house auditor assess impacts of proposed bills. So that was Hartford County's motivation for finally filling this in-house auditor position. The differences between an external auditor and in-house auditor: the in-house is appointed and serves at the pleasure of the council. External auditor completes an audit at the end of the fiscal year to determine how sound the accounting processes are in the government. In-house auditor works year-round to complete risk assessments and research fiscal notes for proposed bills. Also researches specific questions raised by council members. So the goal of the in-house auditor is basically to provide accountability, make recommendations, help council members carry out their role more efficiently in providing the information necessary to make an informed decision. So she went into detail about what she's been currently doing, and the number 1 task is to identify risk assessment, and that is the probability of something basically going wrong. Deterrent effect when identifying vulnerable situations and putting safeguards into place. She doesn't make recommendations, she just provides the facts. The risk assessment is the basis for developing an audit plan. It's a 2 to 3 year long-term plan, and it includes what should be, what steps should be taken to avoid risks and what priority order. Another responsibility is the fiscal note on proposed bills. Economic analysis is provided by the treasurer, but she goes into more detail, and the council has been very appreciative of the additional information. It has enabled them to make more informed decisions. She goes on to, I guess the treasurer has the impact analysis, but she provides more of an economic overall with who is impacted, such as government, business, citizens. Positive impact just in 6 months in having her in this position. Council members pleased with the additional information provided in fiscal notes, provides more information than the treasurer and extends to business and citizen impacts, and the council feels they are making more informed decisions. So it's confirmed in my, validated my concerns that this would be a crucial part in having a checks and balance for the council in the decisions that we're going to have to make, that we would have the person on the council side providing the information that we need.
It would probably be helpful if you probably share, if we
where it's in a, I think it's in the form that would be submitted to the council. Introduced.
And then you have to wait, I just one thing, and then of course the idea is how to finance this position if you're going to go in this direction. I mean, that's one of the other issues that are in mind. So, I mean, there's gonna have to be, you know, still vet this all out.
When,
No, I mean-
okay, good.
That's all, just how you gonna pay for it at the end of the day.
Okay.
Maybe not me personally or you personally, but I think the council or the county as a whole, if the council wants to go in that direction.
Okay, I would say that this position would probably pay for itself in, making better informed decisions. Researching, I believe the, average cost would be about $60,000 to $70,000. Craig, do you know anything about this, the background? Have you looked at the background costs on in-house auditors?
No, I have not been directed to, or otherwise requested, but I can do so if you desire.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the cost amount that's come to mind. And you had said further vetting. What other additional information do you need, and what's our next steps?
Well, I would like to see a job description prepared by Harper County government. And any other government that has this position, I'd like to see the job description. Certainly, I don't think this is the appropriate time to be talking about this position. I think it needs to be vetted during the budget process. And we need to, when I say that we, I'm assuming that you and others here will be on the council. The council needs to convince the executive that this needs to be put into the budget. The council will not be able to add this position into the budget without the oversight of the executive. Quite frankly, I'm not sure of the cost effectiveness, because in some cases I think it'd be better to have someone manage this on a case-by-case basis rather than have a full-time position. I think that we, the council, have the ability to hire advisors and employees or even subcontractors to help us make our decisions. I'm not sure that the county, Cecil County, at this stage requires to have a full-time position to do the things that you talked about. Unless, and what happened in Harper County is, as you mentioned, it, contention between the executive and the council. I don't believe we have that scenario at this point in time. I think that we have an open, we hopefully will have an open book policy. I hope that we can trust our executive, whoever she will be. And I think this is a matter that in Harper County has evolved to a point where there has been this contention and a lack of trust between the branches of government. I don't think that's happened here, and I don't think it's necessary to spend the money at this point in time.
Commissioner Hodge, I think we both share a very different viewpoint on how government should operate. I'm not going to wait and see that whether or not we have a good relationship with the county executive. I'd rather have the checks and balances in place to ensure that a good process is in place. And one of the differences, or one of the factors for identifying, was the risk assessment, in that the contracts that were being put out to bid, I can readily see how not having enough oversight on the executive side, how this could come into play. So I see it as a necessity, learning that the council would have to do a charter amendment in order to add an attorney on the council side. Very disappointing. And I think this is the least we can do to balance out the power.
Well, I think to that point, maybe the document that you have, share with the rest of the board, and then the second piece to Commissioner Hodge's request, like a job description, Hartford County, for example, maybe one Common Co, just to get a flavor of how this the auditor works in the other counties. I think it'd probably be wise, more information the better.
Well, I would encourage, after I get this information together, that the county commissioners, seriously look at this and not wait to ask permission from the county executive. So, okay.
Gather some more info. Okay, we'll go to commissioner items, Commissioner Brunel.
I had the privilege of attending the annual Cecil College Scholarship Breakfast. Enjoyed the speaker, I believe it was Kim Zeiss, correct? Had a very colorful upbringing with a father, Ingo, and his wife, and I don't remember her name, but Kim had donated a check on behalf of her mother and father for $50,000 to the Scholarship Foundation. So it's always a very uplifting event.
Commissioner
Nothing today, thank you.
Commissioner
I attended the Maryland Horse Council meeting in South Chesapeake City at the River's Edge Farm. This farm has a barn on it that is amazing. And the rumor is, and I'm not sure, but I certainly believe it, that they spent $40 million on this barn. It has got to be one of the most impressive barns in all of the United States. It has many features, and I could live in this barn easily. It's much better than the house that I live in today. But this is a real jewel in Cecil County. Quite frankly, people come from all over the United States to be trained on the art of dressage by the Hassler family. They are very well known throughout the United States on how they train people. And originally the Hasslers were near Commissioner Brumel's old residence in Valora, but moved to this facility south of Chesapeake City. And it is just impressive, and one of the things that we in Cecil County should be very proud of.
Very good. A message from Mr. Wine. We have a tornado watch in Cecil County up until 7 o'clock today. So if you've got umbrellas on your patio or porch, or you need to put something away, just be careful. So we have a tornado watch till 7 according to the record books. With that, Mr. Wine.
Staff recommends the board move to closed session pursuant to Maryland Annotated Code, State